welcome to another episode of Raw Chatter. I am your host speaking, Vicky Midwood, human health optimizer and addiction eliminator. I am on my own again today. I do have some guests lined up, but getting dates to coincide with when everybody's free to record together is no mean feat. Busy people doing a lot of things. So today I am kind of making the last couple of episodes into a bit of a trilogy, if you like, because I just thought that this is a nice way of sort of concluding what the last couple of episodes are all about. So if you haven't checked out episode 15 and 16, you may want to do that after you listen to this one, because then it kind of should all gel together and make some sense to you being able to perhaps do the things that you want to do for yourself without you getting in your own way. So this is all about you controlling the controllables. And I'm really going to be talking about, again, something that cropped up over the last week or so in my client VIP days. These are experiences that I have both with brand new clients, but also with ongoing clients, where we get to spend a decent chunk of time together, usually between 3 to 5 hours, sometimes a little bit longer, to actually go through some practical work, whether that be Reiki or going through some movement skills, i.e. exercises that will help people to physically tune into their body. Perhaps it's breath work, perhaps it's a hypnosis, it could be some reflexology, but also to be able to get really clear and dive deeper into feelings, thoughts, where we're feeling that we're just not making progress, and the repeating stuff that keeps coming up on a daily basis. Now, we talk about this stuff on our weekly sessions, but often the weekly sessions tend to deal with more of the immediate kind of important stuff. And these longer deep dive VIP sessions can go much deeper into the behind the scenes, the reasons why we think what we think, we feel how we feel, and we do what we do. And I covered last week a lot about why change is difficult. But I want to go a little bit deeper today into just understanding what are the things that we can control and what are the things that are not in our control, as well as how we feel more in control. So what's cropped up for a lot of people recently is this idea that they're stopping themselves from doing things because they are scared of how it will be received, which really, in the simplest of terms, means that they're frightened of being judged. So whether it's social media posts or whether it's speaking up in a meeting and being vulnerable, particularly, whether it's owning your own feelings, emotions, or needs, if we have been brought up that emotions are bad, should be kept to yourself, and not something that should be, in inverted commas, aired in public, they are private, we're going to find it very, very difficult when it's important for us to ask for what we want and to be able to tune in to what we need in terms of feelings, in terms of just what actions we need to take to help us to feel differently about ourselves. This belief that we should control our emotions to our own detriment, because we don't want people to feel uncomfortable if we say something that they perhaps may not like, or we don't want to, or maybe we're not even able to actually explain that the way somebody is speaking to us or referring to us makes us feel a certain way about ourselves. Maybe we feel uncomfortable, not good enough, less than. But we don't know how to put it into words because we don't want to hurt their feelings. That's the bit I want to talk about, because we're not in control of other people's feelings. And the more we try to modify our behaviors, the words that we use, what we're actually thinking, to try to fit in with what we want somebody else to feel, we are by default not being true to ourselves. In other words, we're being out of alignment. it doesn't feel good. It almost feels like we're being pulled in two different directions, because there's a part of you definitely does want the other person not to feel hurt, to feel good about themselves. But we also know that by us saying whatever it is we think they want to hear, there's a part of us that's also being hurt, that's not feeling seen, that's not being heard. And that doesn't feel good. Even though we convince ourselves we feel great because now the other person feels great, if we're really truly honest, what we tend to feel, particularly over time, if this is a repeating pattern of behavior, is we tend to feel frustrated, taken for granted, used often, or manipulated. And that's because we've not allowed ourselves to actually be open and honest, potentially vulnerable with what we feel and what we want. And so it becomes a repeating pattern, and we can get really stuck in that pattern. So the first thing that we have to recognize, and I mean really take it on board and own it, is that we are not God. Now, I don't mean that to be facetious in any way, shape, or form. It's not meant to be triggering. What I mean by that is if we truly believe it is our responsibility to take care of every single other person's emotions and feelings, we are, in this sense, trying to be God, right? But you're not God. I don't think so. Not the last time you looked at yourself in the mirror. I don't think that you were here to make every other person on the planet feel good or feel the way that they want to feel. And you certainly weren't meant to do that and disregard your own feelings and emotions in the process. But by trying to control other people's outcomes, responses, behaviors, thoughts, and feelings, in essence, we are trying to play God. And that is going to leave you feeling uncomfortable, dissatisfied, unable to do the things that you actually want to do, which ironically, we're back to paradoxes, makes you feel the same way that you've always felt. Not good enough. I don't know enough. Other people are better than me. I don't have all the answers. Everybody else seems to. They all seem to have the ability to do all of the things that I can't do. And that's because you have got this God power that you like to think that you are in charge and responsible for every other person's feelings and thoughts and comments on social media posts and so on and so forth. You're not. Just let that sink in. You are not responsible for other people's feelings. And the very fact that you think you are is something that you need to let go of. That God complex needs to go, because the only persons whose thoughts and feelings you really genuinely are in control of are your own. And any other thought process that you have that tells you different is a lie. Let that sink in. So if you are consistently and continuously repeating automatic thoughts that I can't say that because they might think, you need to cancel that thought. Cancel, cancel, cancel. Cancel the thought, because it's not true, and it keeps you stuck in believing that you are the Almighty in charge of everybody's feelings, thoughts, and emotions. So that's what I want you to really focus on and listen to. The only person's thoughts and feelings you are in control of are yours, and you are. You are going to get, as a human being, a lot of negative thoughts. And what we need to help ourselves to remember is that we have negative thoughts so that we can be aware of danger, so that we can avoid threat, so that we can survive as a human. But all of the thoughts that we think are not true. In fact, many of the thoughts that we think are downright ridiculous, stupid, crazy lies that if you said to somebody else, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm thinking, they would probably look at you and go, but why? Why would you think that? Why would you be saying that to yourself? It's so obviously not true. But the problem is, when it's in your head, it does feel like it's true. And why is that? Because you keep repeating it. And whatever we repeat, we believe. Whether it's true or not, it doesn't make any difference at all. As an example, and again, I'm not wanting to signal people out, but I'm going to take a flat earther as an example. For those of you who don't know what a flat earther is, there are people who believe that the earth is flat, and they have had that belief for centuries. And there are young people who are being brought up in that belief system, and so they believe it's true. And it doesn't matter what you may say to them. As a person who looks at the world and you've seen pictures from outer space and you know it's round, the flat earthers are not going to believe you. They're going to think that you are lying. Why? Because everything that they have seen and heard around them since they were tiny has reinforced this belief that the world, the earth, is flat. And anything that you come up with, maybe a picture, maybe some videography, whatever it is that you come up with, they will have a reason or an excuse why that can't be true. Well, you've made it up. It's been falsified, right? You've played around with the cinematography to make it appear. There will always be a reason why they're going to cling to and believe the thought that they have been believing since they were tiny, and they can't even remember a time when they didn't believe it. But this is the interesting bit. That thought can be changed. They have the power to change it, just as you have the power to change any automatic negative thought that is not serving you, that is making you feel unhappy, uncomfortable, that is keeping you stuck, unable to move on with your life or change patterns of behavior. You can change those thoughts. And I'm going to go through this process with you. Now, this is not my process. This is a process that I've learned through my years of training and listening and seeing just what does actually help people. And so this is something that I've picked up along the way through psychiatry and psychology and just coaching, because asking the right questions is going to help us to think and view things in a different way. And that's really what a coach is. A coach isn't a counselor. A counselor listens to what you have to say and can empathize and can sympathize with you. And it's a nice space and a place where you can talk things through. But a coach will actually try to help you to shift your perspective and help you to see things that you can't actually see for yourself. And the best way to do that is by asking some really good questions. And so the questions that I'm going to give you are what you can utilize to change those automatic negative thoughts that you continue to believe are true only because you've kept repeating them, because they're not true. Every thought you think is not true. Every thought you think is not real. And we can help you to think the thoughts that are going to work with you, that are going to allow you to become the person that actually can own their emotions and feelings, who isn't worried about what other people think, because they recognize that not everybody can like them, just like they don't like everybody. Not everybody's going to agree with the way that they do things and their viewpoints. Why? Because we've all been brought up differently. We all have different ways that we feel work for us that are not necessarily the same as for other people. It doesn't make them right and it doesn't make them wrong. It just makes them different. When we can feel comfortable in being who we are, and we're not worried about what other people's opinions or judgments of us are, we can actually then live the life and have the health that we aspire to have, but believe we can't because of these automatic thoughts that are keeping us in patterns that are not helping. So what are the questions? Now, if you look in the show notes and you look in the description, you will see that I have listed them down for you. And I can actually send them to you on a PDF if you would like me to do that. So I'll put the link in there. There's nothing that you need to fill in. You can just literally click the link. But here is what you need to be asking yourself. So the first thing is you have to know, what is the thought? Okay, that's obviously the first step. Awareness in anything and everything is key. The second step then is to ask yourself, is this true? Now, if it's a thought that you have repeated thousands, if not millions of times over your life, then you're probably going to say, well, yes, it is true. Okay, so then the next question to ask is it 100% true all of the time? And then you're probably going to have a bit of a rethink. Okay. The next question to ask is, how does this thought that I'm thinking make me feel? How does it make me act? And what is therefore the outcome of me continuing to believe this thought? Now we're going to ask the same sort of questions, but put slightly differently. How would I feel if I didn't believe this thought? How would I feel if I didn't continue to keep on thinking it? And how would I therefore act? And what would be the outcome of me not believing this thought? Now, if you've been doing that process with me with a specific thought in mind, then you potentially felt in your body different sensations. Maybe you noticed that when I asked the second set of questions, when I asked you, if you didn't believe this thought, how would you feel? Maybe you felt your whole body go a little bit lighter. Maybe you felt that you were actually starting to smile a little bit. Maybe your shoulders dropped. Perhaps your throat relaxed a little bit. Because we feel our feelings physiologically, yeah, as well as what we're actually telling ourselves in our head with words. We feel them in our body. And this is often why we're scared of our thoughts and our feelings, because we do get physical sensations that can genuinely worry us to some degree or take us by surprise. If you've got a tightening of the throat, you kind of feel that you can't talk, then you are squashing down what you need to say. Why? Because there'll be a fear and a thought that goes, you shouldn't say what you think because people won't like it. In other words, people won't like you. In other words, you will be rejected. And these are the thoughts that we need to help you to know that you can control. These are the controllables. Your thoughts, you can control, you can change them, but you have to know what they are first, and then you have to go through that process. And then the last bit of that process, if you can do it, it's the most fun bit. What if you were to actually flip that thought on its head and think the total opposite? Because that is the new thought that you can choose to continue to think. That is the thought that can help you to bust through from fear to feeling free. And for the majority of people that I work with, whether they've got health issues that are caused by emotional eating or bulimia, or because they've had issues around food, and because of that, they've got thyroid problems and adrenal issues and nervous system dysfunction, as the majority of my clients have anxiety that causes physical sensations and all kinds of hormone disruption because of the nervous system disruption. All of a sudden now, when you start to recognize that you can control your own thoughts by doing that process, you can then allow yourself to do the stuff that you've been telling yourself is too hard, that you can't do. Other people can, but I can't because I don't know enough. I haven't got the skills. I'm not qualified enough. I'm not intelligent enough, or whatever is the story that is not true. Because you can flip those negative thoughts on their head when you realize they're just not serving you at all. Knowing what you can control is actually quite freeing. And knowing what you cannot control helps you then to let that stuff go. So if you don't take away anything more than just understanding you are not in control of other people's thoughts, feelings, or judgments. You never were, you never will be. You don't have the power to make other people think what you want them to think and feel what you want them to feel on a consistent basis, and it's not your job to. Your job, your role, is to take charge and control your own thoughts so that you can step into being the person that you want to be with the health that you want to have, and know how to sustain that long term without it being a battle, without it being a fight, but actually so that it just becomes who you are and what you do. This is the stuff that allows you to shift your identity from staying in feeling like a victim to stuff that's happened to you, or the stuff that you have created and the stories that you have lived up to that have kept you stuck in an eating disorder or a drug addiction, or being addicted to worry and anxiety and perfectionism and people pleasing. This is the stuff you can control. You can let go of all of the thoughts that keep you in that identity, and you can create the brand new thoughts that make you feel light and able to speak out and excited to share your vulnerability, because you recognize that you are enough. And by showing who you really are, you will feel aligned with yourself instead of trying to get through life pretending to be something and someone that you're not. I hope this has helped, folks. If you have liked this episode, please do give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. If you think that what I've just shared in this episode may be helpful to somebody else, then please do pass it on to them. And above all, remember, we only have one life, as far as I know, and one body. Look after it, because it is looking after you. Until next time, take care of yourself. Bye-bye.